with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amber, is there any correspondence?
We have a letter from Pam Demarest regarding the ramp finish.
We have the supervisor's financial report, and we have a total, I won't go over the receipts and disbursements, but our total in our regular accounts is $12,311,010.09. And in our class accounts, we've got $10,899,139.28. Of that, we've close to $10 million is community preservation funds. So that's that.
First half collection.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, we've got most of the money in and we haven't spent it yet.
That'd be a great financial report for December.
Yes, it would be. Although we're not supposed to, maybe not have our fund balances that high. Okay, so what we're going to do is something that we're trying to get better about our procedures is open the meeting to anyone who wishes to make any comments on the resolutions. And I want to start with we do have the Rams Head dock application resolution on. So I'd like to start with that because Tim Hill, our attorney, is here and Stephen is excused for the moment. So I'd like to just start with that so that I can then bring back Stephen for the rest of the meeting and any comments that someone has on any of the other resolutions. So I'll start with the in-house audience. I don't see anybody. Is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to speak to anything on the resolutions? Okay, seeing that there's none, would anyone like to speak on any other resolution that's on the agenda for this evening? Pam, I see you have your hand raised.
Yes, I'm sorry. I missed my opportunity for a minute. I was distracted. I'm just going to ask you, did you get the submission that I just sent you in regard to the Rams Head resolution?
Yes, and I responded that we received it. I passed it along to Tim and it was noted. And I think that actually we might have made one minor correction based upon your input. So thank you.
Yeah.
And the same for Bill Darrow.
I had other concerns about the specifications that are in this resolution that I want to clarify.
We read them. We read them and we incorporated them as appropriate.
Yes, so everything's been considered.
And we spent the better part of about 45 minutes going through them.
So can you tell me what part of, since this dock was split in two pieces and now two different permits are going to be required here, which parts are part of this resolution versus the wetlands permit? Because that's really my major concern here. The stairs are in the upland area, which would put them within the wetlands permit jurisdiction.
Almost
and not
all
part
the-
of this dock application.
If I can just say that almost all the docks that we approve include a pedestrian access staircase, so people walking along the beach can go up one side and come down the other. The dock is not an impediment to walking on the beach. That's part of the dock application. All the rest of it, upland, the ramp, the walkway, yeah. That's a wetlands because it's going through this 75, 100-foot buffer.
So that is,
But the
that's
stairs
not an
application.
themselves, the location of the stairs themselves is outside of the mean high water line. So my concern is, I'm asking, is this dock going to be a dock that is elevated, the 40 feet? I've been asking about this question a few times, this dock ramp up, it's not clear. And I really want to see that clear as far as resolving this 5 by 85-foot fixed dock. Part of it is elevated. And that's why the need for those stairs. If the dock itself was never elevated, those stairs would not be necessary for this project. And because they do encroach into the wetlands regulated area for the town, I believe it should go under the wetlands permit.
I think that the answer to that is going to be resolved with the wetlands permit
yes.
application. So
But you're writing this. So then where you say the walkway structures referenced in the application, Is that part of the the stairs are part of the walkway structures because they would be attached to the walkway outside of the mean high water mark?
It's, we're,
It
we've
seems to
addressed,
me,
we've addressed what we feel needs to be addressed in here, a wooden pedestrian access stair. And that's what we have agreed upon. So that's the resolution. And then the rest will be addressed in the wetlands application.
but part of that, I don't think you really understand. So then the answer is that this is not a straight 5 by 85 foot dock. This is a dock that is going to be constructed straight seaward, 45 feet, and then the next 40 feet going landward is going to be elevated to a 5.5 foot elevation and end there until they get the permit to continue the walkway up the bluff. It seems like that's the wrong split on the application.
Well, Pam, I
This
think that,
dock,
We've done this before. We had an
especially
application.
since the stairs are on the shoreline outside of the mean high water mark, and that's where the jurisdiction ends with the docks. I mean, I've heard John Needham say it. Anything that's off of the mean high water mark becomes wetlands applications. It's what happened in 10 Thompson Road. And I don't know why that's not happening here.
We
That's
have
really
dis-
my concern.
We've
I don't
made
know
our
why it's not
decision.
happening here. It was separated out at 10 Thompson
Pam,
and
Pam,
specifically.
You can say it again and again,
Yeah,
but
we've made our
we have,
decision. We've
yeah.
made our decision.
We've heard you.
The
We've heard you.
resolution. We've considered all points and we're
Well,
ready.
then, okay, then I'd like to request that the language is clearer and mentions that in fact the stairs are part of this permit. Instead of
does.
leaving it sort of fuzzy.
Yeah, we've tweaked it. We're comfortable with it.
Okay, and they will require a building permit for the utilities that you've now allowed them to, or will have said that.
yes,
they
those
don't
go
need a
with the
permit
wetlands
from
application.
you.
Yeah, and they're not for tonight.
Yeah, that's not for tonight. So are there
So
any
the-
other?
So the dock is going to be elevated. This is all, I just want a straight answer. I'm not getting that from you.
It's
I'm
per
sorry.
the plans. It's per the plans, Pam.
As per the plans.
Yes.
Uh-huh, as per the plans. Okay, very good.
And Bonstrom?
Yeah, hi. The plans don't have anything about lighting,
No,
nothing about electricity, nothing about water.
nope,
They didn't request that from the DEC.
no, they didn't.
They don't need it.
And so it's not, the only thing in the resolution says, if you're going to do lighting, it's got to be dark skies compliant. We don't discuss the water at all. We discuss it among ourselves, but it's not in the resolution, nor is it in the application.
Right, you're granting a permission to do something they haven't applied for.
No, we're not. No, you didn't listen to me.
Yes, yes, yes.
If you put in lighting, it must be dark skies compliant, that's all.
Yeah, how about if you're going to put in lighting, you have to submit an application with plans so that the town knows what it's approving. How unusual.
Electric and water goes to the building.
And there will be a wetlands application, which will show the water and if water and electricity, if electricity, it will be going through the wetlands. So it'll be on the,
Or they'll be solar powered.
Also onto the dock that you're approving. All
Mhm.
right, the other issue that I had is could somebody please define for me what a hybrid dock is?
No,
we don't have a definition, and nor do we reference hybrid anywhere in this
resolution.
resolution.
Not in the resolution, but BJ pronounced it as a hybrid dock.
Yeah, I could have called it
Pre-existing,
a mud, I could have called it,
yeah, but it's also pre-existing non-conforming.
Yeah.
We're just inclined.
right,
So it's kind of Alice in Wonderland. It's what you.
kind of not covered in the code.
That's
Precisely.
a good point. How are you approving a dock that's not in the
Because
code?
we have the allowance of an exemption.
Yeah.
That's within our purview.
Yeah, what's not in your purview is to grant an expansion of non-conforming use that has to go to the ZBA. You do not have jurisdiction to do this.
Let's see it that way.
This is a dock application that's being approved as a dock. It's
It's
not,
an expansion.
expansion of use would be if the business
Go
doesn't.
to the ZBA, you do not have jurisdiction to decide this.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything?
Conditions which are stated.
Yeah, we'll read that. All right, so then I will proceed to the appointments. Christina, could you bring, let Stephen know to come back in? Thank you.
Me if he wants.
You choose to hide.
By the way, Tim Hill, jump in anytime.
Okay, so I think,
Dominic,
yeah,
start.
Board of Ethics.
Whereas a vacancy exists on the Board of Ethics and whereas the town board has advertised for and interviewed applicants.
You want to do the public hearings first? Or-
No, we always do the
No,
resolutions.
do the
then we go to-
resolutions, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. Therefore be resolved that Laura Cunningham is hereby appointed to serve as a member of the Board of Ethics for the town of Shelter Island. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Whereas a vacancy exists on the Conservation Advisory Council, and whereas the town board has advertised for and interviewed applicants, now therefore be it resolved that Ehrlich Armbrust is hereby appointed to serve as a member of the Conservation Advisory Council for a 2-year term to expire on January 31st, 2025. So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Be it resolved that Mallory Clark is hereby appointed to serve as part-time temporary leave replacement office assistant for the year 2023 at the rate of $28 per hour, retroactive to January 4th, 2023. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Whereas vacancies exist on the Community Housing Board, and whereas the town board has advertised for and interviewed applicants, now therefore be it resolved that Mark Mobius, David Doyle, and William Maestro are hereby appointed to serve as members of the Community Housing Board for a 5-year term to expire on January 31, 2028. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas Karen Fuhr, 142G North Ferry Road, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to complete an existing dock that was repaired and subsequently rebuilt without a permit. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to section 53-9 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, the town board hereby calls for a public hearing to be held at 6:20 PM prevailing time on the 28th day of February 2023 for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or opposition to the proposed construction. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Sorry. Whereas Josh Chapin of 22 Prospect Avenue has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to construct a 5-foot by 30-foot ramp leading to a 5-foot by 100-foot fixed dock with a 5-foot by 30-foot L at the offshore end. Construct a 4-foot by 30-foot lowered platform. Install 2 7-pile dolphins on the west side and 1 2-pile dolphin on the east side of the dock. Install a 65-foot splashboard system and provide water and electricity to offshore end of dock. Be it resolved that pursuant to section 53-9 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, the town board hereby calls for a public hearing to be held at 6:22 PM prevailing time on the 28th day of February 2023 for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed construction. So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Whereas James and Cheryl Keller, 56A Cartwright Road, have petitioned the town of Shelter Island for a wetlands permit for permission to add addition and renovate existing dwelling. New work includes removal of existing septic and decking from vegetative buffer, reconstruct existing deck, and add 84 square feet of new deck and vegetative buffer, reconstruct 759 square feet of first floor in ARA, 301 square feet in vegetative buffer, new 166 square feet second floor in ARA, reconstruct 301 square feet first floor, and add 89 square feet in vegetative buffer. Be it resolved that pursuant to section 129-7 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, a public hearing will be held at 6:24 PM prevailing time on the 28th day of February 2023 in Shelter Island Town Hall, Shelter Island, New York, for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed application. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Whereas Catherine and Theodore Bucci, 104 South Ferry Road, have petitioned the town of Shelter Island for a wetlands permit for permission to construct an in-ground swimming pool and patio partially within the regulated area All new construction will be greater than 80-foot flag from the wetlands boundary of man-made pond on site. New pool will include automatic cover, cartridge filter, and salt cell or ozone disinfection. Be resolved that pursuant to Section 129-7 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, a public hearing will be held at 6:26 PM prevailing time on the 28th day of February 2023 in the Shelter Island Town Hall, Shelter Island, New York, for all interested parties to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed application. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Whereas Larry and Sally Winston, 3 Little Ram Island Drive, have petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to install a mooring in Cockles Harbor at a location designated as latitude 41.075507 degrees north and longitude 72.307204 degrees west. And whereas a public hearing was duly held on the 10th day of January 2023 for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition, now therefore be it resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized to issue a permit for the aforementioned installation at a location designated as latitude 41.075771 degrees north and longitude 72.307660 degrees west as per WMAC recommendation. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Next resolution goes a page and a half. I'll read it all, so bear with me, please. Whereas Ram's Head Inn LLC applicant has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission at the property located at 108 Ram Island Drive, SCTM 700-10-1-7.9, to remove the dock now existing thereat and replace the same with a 5-foot by 85-foot fixed dock with a 3-foot by 12-foot aluminum ramp leading to a 6-foot by 20-foot floating dock and an 8-foot by 40-foot floating dock placed in an L configuration, and a wooden pedestrian access stair over dock in parentheses, and a 5-foot by 70-foot elevated ramp walkway from the existing 10 by 10-foot access platform to the dock structure. As per plans dated April 22nd, 2022 from Costello Marine Contracting Corporation. And whereas a public hearing was duly held on April 29th, 2022 and August 16th, 2022, and on January 10th, 2023, for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition. Now therefore, whereas the applicant has secured a permit from New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, permit ID 1-4732-00287/0007, with effective date of August 24th, 2021, and modification number 1, effective date June 8th, 2022, and a permit ID of 1-4732-00287/0008, modification number 0, with an effective date of June 8th, 2022. Whereas the applicant and or its predecessors in interest have in the past utilized a dock location upon Middle Harbor Road for purposes related to the operation of Ram's Head Inn and the Causeway Dock in parentheses, and whereas section 53-15 of the Shelter Island Town Code provides that the town board shall have the authority to modify or waive, subject to any appropriate conditions and provisions of said chapter 53, as in its judgment is not requisite to the interest of public health, safety, or general welfare, except where such waiver would be contrary to other ordinances or state law.
That's a key point.
Can you mute that?
Please, no comments, please. Therefore, be it resolved that pursuant to Part 617, Section 617.5A, close parentheses, and C, close parentheses, 9, close parentheses, to the State Environmental Quality Review Act and Chapter 60 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, notice is hereby given to the town board has determined that the project is a type 2 action and will not have significant effect on the environment. And a draft environmental impacts statement will not be prepared for reasons set forth in the report from Hijack Planning and Environmental Consulting dated December 12th, 2022. Be it further resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized to issue a permit for a 5-foot by 85-foot fixed dock with a 3-foot by 12-foot aluminum ramp leading to a 6-foot by 20-foot floating dock and an 8 by 40-foot floating dock placed in an L configuration, and a wooden pedestrian access stair over the dock as specifications filed. After said applicant, pursuant to section 53-9 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, has filed with the town clerk a certificate that the owner has at least $300,000 liability insurance on the location of the operations covered said permit, by said permit. A copy of the contractor's current home improvement contractor's license and a certificate from the contractor performing the operations covered by said permit. That said contractor has the owner's/contractor's policy issued in favor of the town of Shelter Island for liability limits of at least $500,000 covering operations of the contractor pursuant to said permit has complied with all of the requirements as indicated in the application. Sorry. Be it further resolved that said operation shall be completed within 1 year from the date of issuance of this permit. Said permit is subject to the recommended limitations and requirements that may be necessary by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, the Army Corps of Engineers, and any other agencies having jurisdiction. Be it further resolved that the walkway structures referred to in the application may be considered upon submission of an application for a wetlands permit. Be it further resolved that the permit is subject to the following conditions, and there are 4 of them. Number 1, the dock be constructed pursuant to this permit shall be the sole dock used for any purposes by the Ram's Head Inn, inclusive of any individual or entity owning or operating the inn or subject property. Number 2, prior to the issuance of the permit, and as a prerequisite thereto, applicant shall execute and cause to be filed with the Suffolk County Real Property Office all papers necessary to permanently extinguish and remove the easement granting access and use to the present dock to the adjacent parcel, parentheses SCTM 700-10-1-7.2, close parentheses, and shall file proof of such filing with the town clerk. Number 3, any lighting installed on the dock shall be dark skies compliant. Number 4, the following activities/uses shall be prohibited, at or upon or in connection with the dock. And there are 3 of them. A, overnight docking, except by dinghy or launch. B, Mediterranean or quote unquote stern to docking. And C, rafting of boats.
Let me just
Yes.
stop here for a moment,
Absolutely.
if I may.
Yes.
Jim, when you said the permits number, it wasn't 000, it's quadruple 07 and quadruple 08, just to have that on.
Okay, quadruple, I'm sorry.
And I want to just remind that this is dock only. The ramp, as we are calling it, will require a separate wetlands permit. Council or the applicant was notified of that some time ago. Requirement.
Right.
Okay,
Yep.
all right.
Anybody else, any town board members for that one? So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carried. Whereas sealed bids on the purchase of propane for the year 2023 were received by the town clerk's office until 3 p.m. on the 6th day of January 2023, at which time they were publicly opened and read aloud as follows. J.W. Picozzi, Inc., for each gallon delivered for the calendar year 2023, the differential will be the sum of 0.859 cents per gallon. Be resolved that the contract for the purchase of propane for the calendar year of 2023 is hereby awarded to J.W. Picozzi, Inc. for the sum of the differential of 0.859 per gallon. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Whereas sealed bids on the purchase of number 2 fuel oil for the year 2023 were received by the town clerk's office until 3 p.m. on the 6th day of January 2023, at which time they were publicly open and read aloud as follows. J.W. Picozzi Incorporated, for each gallon delivered for the calendar year 2023, differential will be the sum of 0.549 cents per gallon. Be it resolved that the contract of the purchase of number 2 fuel oil for the calendar year 2023 is hereby awarded to J.W. Picozzi Incorporated for the sum of the differential of 0.549 per gallon. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Be it resolved that resolution number 75-2022 is hereby amended to read as follows. Be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to find and submit payment of $1,000 for the agreement between Penflex Service Awards and the town of Shelter Island for the preparation of the Gatsby 73 package for the Volunteer Ambulance Awards Program fiscal year ending December 31st, 2022. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Whereas on January 18th, 2023, the town engineer appeared in front of the Water Quality Improvement Projects Advisory Board, in parentheses WQI, to make an application for funding for the costs associated with engineering and permitting of the proposed fresh pond remediation project. Whereas proposed costs amount to $147,600 and would be payable to Lombardo Associates. Whereas WQI on January 18th of 2023 voted 3-0 and 1 abstention to recommend to the town board that said cost be funded from the WQI or Water Quality Improvement Funds. And whereas the WQI issued a memo dated on January 18th, 2023, memorializing said recommendation and providing their reasoning thereof. And whereas prior to any expenditure of community preservation water quality improvement funds pursuant to section 50-33, open parentheses, close parentheses B, the town board must determine that the proposed project is consistent with the Community Preservation Fund Water Quality Project Plan. And whereas the town board shall further make certain certification findings pursuant to section 50-34, now therefore be it resolved that the town clerk is hereby directed to schedule a public hearing on February 28th, 2023 at 6:30 PM prevailing time for the purpose of determining whether to utilize community preservation water quality improvement funds for the costs associated with engineering and permitting of the proposed fresh pond remediation project. So moved.
Second?
Aye.
Oh, sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Going in two different directions. Whereas New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services, DSHS, was awarded grant funding of the Hazard Mitigation Program, project number 4567-0004 for the Ferry Flood Mitigation. Whereas the town of Shelter Island is a subrecipient of the grant awarded to New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services, and whereas funding has been made available in an amount not to exceed total project costs of $213,400 with a federal share of $192,060 and the required non-federal matching share of $21,340. And whereas the subrecipient management costs requested and will be made available for an amount not to exceed a total cost of $10,670. And whereas the approved scope of work outlined in the application is to retain a qualified consultant to conduct a feasibility analysis to identify alternatives for the mitigation of flood risk at all 4 of the North and South Ferry landings and to produce an engineering design for the recommended alternatives for each location. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of Shelter Island accepts such funding, and be it further resolved that the supervisor or his designee is authorized to execute all contracts related to this grant. Be it further resolved that the town engineer Joseph Benora is appointed to serve as project manager for this project. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Whereas the town of Shelter Island was awarded Suffolk County Department of Health Services opioid settlement grant funding in the amount of $100,000 annually for 3 years. And be it further resolved that the town of Shelter Island accepts said funding, and be it further resolved that the supervisor or his designee is authorized to execute all contracts related to this grant, and be it further resolved that Councilwoman Amber Brock Williams is appointed to serve as project manager for the implementation of this grant. So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Whereas pursuant to Chapter 50 of the Town Code entitled Community Preservation Fund, the town board has created a segregated fund to serve as a repository for monies to be used in connection with community preservation to include water quality improvement projects. And now therefore be it resolved that the supervisors hereby or his designees are hereby authorized to establish a checking account with JP Morgan Chase Bank for the Water Quality Improvement Advisory Board. Be it further resolved that Supervisor Jerry Siller, Councilwoman Amber Brock Williams, Margaret Larson, Councilman James Colligan, Barbara Jean Iaffola of the town of Shelter Island are hereby authorized to sign documents including check. Do we want that to be town board members? So that we don't have to redo the resolution next year?
No.
Okay, so I just want to check that. Of the town of Shelter Island are hereby authorized to sign documents including checks for the town of Shelter Island, and be it further resolved that Judy Merringer, Barbara Bloom, and Shelby Mundy are hereby authorized to make transfers of town funds amongst the designated bank. So moved.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Be resolved, the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to execute an agreement between the town of Shelter Island and James J. Reed as chief of police concerning the terms and conditions of employment for the period of January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2026. So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the following budget transfers are hereby approved. $10,400 from the A1680.103 Media-Thuman, $2,000 from the A1356.105 Assessment Board of Review Clerk, $1,300 from A4540.100 EMS Clerk, $8,000 from A8140.100 Community Housing Board Clerk, to A1220.111 Committees Clerk, C. Thuman, $3,811.86 from the B8030.100 Water Advisory Committee Clerk, and $12,000 from the B8040.101 Comprehensive Plan Clerk to B1220.111 Committees Clerk, C. Thuman. $15,000 from A1680.102 Media-Martin, $22,950 from A1220.102 Supervisor Assistant, $676 from A1220.108 Capital Grants and Planning Clerk, $10,200 from A1420.102 Attorney Legal Aid to A1010.106 Town Board Administrative Assistant K. Martin, and $30,000 from the EMS Capital Reserve to the A4540.200 Ambulance Vehicle Equipment Account. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. We didn't have a year on that, is that all right? The next one says 22.
I think it's presumed that it's 2023 unless we
It is?
specifically state.
Specify either, but I'm 2023,
Okay.
because it's for the striker equipment. Farther down.
All right. Be it resolved that the following 2022 budget revisions are hereby approved. $51,399 from the Highway Capital Reserve to the DA 9950.0 Highway Capital Projects Equipment Account. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to expend the sum of $3,760.50 from the A8160.484 landfill office and miscellaneous account to Creative Information Systems, Inc. for the SMS maintenance renewal for the period of January 1st, 2023 to 12/31/2023. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Be it resolved, the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to expend the sum of $330 from the A1355.491 Assessor Support Contracts account to Apex Sketching Software for the annual maintenance renewal of the period of February 1st, 2023 to February 1st, 2024. So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to expend the sum of $39,638.35 from the Highway Capital Improvements account to KS State Bank for the third installment on the purchase of the 2021 Mack tractor P1647T for the Highway Department. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved, supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to expend the sum of $32,442 from the A4540.200 ambulance vehicle equipment account to Hendrickson Fire Rescue Equipment for the installation of the striker equipment. So
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved that 2022 general claims number 2221 through 2295 in the amount of $138,447.45 2022 highway claims number 271 through 282 in the amount of $85,826.87. And 2022 Community Preservation Fund claims number 23 through 24 for $1,580.70 are hereby approved for payment as audited. And the supervisor and/or any town board member is hereby authorized and directed to sign the approval for payment of the same. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And last but not least, but it is be it resolved that 2023 general claims number 13 through 94, the amount of $54,369.31. From the 2023 highway claims number 1 through 7, the amount of $4,220.13. And the 2023 Community Preservation Fund claim number 1, the amount of $35.42, are hereby approved for payment as audited. The supervisor and/or any town board member is hereby authorized and directed to sign the approval for payment of the same. So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
We will adjourn the regular meeting and open the public hearing on Shorewood Farms, Inc., Siegel Road for maintenance dredge. Amber, if you could read the public notice, please.
On the application of Shorewood Farms Incorporated Siegel Road to maintenance dredge approximately 1,000 yards from the basin entrance to a depth of 6 feet below mean water.
Do we have a report from the Waterways Committee?
Yeah, this was done via email, a polling of the committee on or around January 7th.
Yeah, beginning of January, yeah.
Yeah, and we got responses from all the members except one, and they were all for it.
Yeah. And it was timing on the reason we had to do that was for the
Yeah,
dredge.
not to miss the season.
Yeah, not to miss the season.
Okay.
Okay.
We will now open the hearing for anyone who wishes to speak on this. It's like Jack Costello is here.
Hey, Jeff.
So Jack Costello on behalf of the applicant, just here to answer any questions that there can be, and it is a time-sensitive situation.
Yep.
I mean, I looked it over, I didn't really have any questions. Self-explanatory.
Yeah, it's pretty regular. Are you done?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
more of a keeping
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About how often do you do this particular project?
every couple of years.
Every couple of years?
Yeah.
And the spoils are going,
Yeah, to the back.
okay, okay. All right.
Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to weigh in on this? All right, seeing that there's none, we will close the hearing on that one. And now we will open the public hearing on North Ferry Road, 12 Summerfield Place for a special permit application.
On the application of North Ferry, 12 Summerfield Place to replace and elevate the East Shore side ramp support structure and repave approaching area.
I guess that doesn't have any reports from any committees, so
No.
we will open the hearing for anyone who wishes to speak.
I can answer any questions.
Okay, so we have Rich Hunt here, if anyone has any questions.
Just out of curiosity, elevation wise, how much?
We're gonna go up 18 inches,
Can you? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
by the heel section of the ramp is gonna be 18 inches higher than it currently is.
Okay.
And the ramp, which is now 24 feet long, will be 30 feet long.
Oh, wow.
So we get additional range
Yep.
and elevation. It will match the elevation on the Greenport North ramp, the one that we did last year.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then you do some paving around that one?
Yes.
Time,
Just out in front to make the
Right.
grade match up.
make the grade match. Okay.
You notice it on the extreme tide days, when,
Yeah.
how different it is on both sides, driving a low riding car
And it
myself,
doesn't work to just have a good ramp in Greenport. We have to
Oh.
have shelter on
both sides.
Yeah, that 18 inches is significant. I didn't realize it was that much.
Yeah, it's quite a lift.
And the ramp being 6 feet longer is,
That allows us to have
Yeah.
a greater range of tide.
Yeah.
So we're very excited about it.
yeah.
Great.
When do you estimate the work be done?
We've done some preliminary work. We're hoping to get it done before April. Fingers crossed, because that's when our demand goes up. We just want to slip open. It's really hard to manage more than that.
Okay, so the slip will be down until that time?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted the public here to be able to know that. Okay, thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Is there anyone else out there who would like to speak to this?
Just wanted to put into the record, this application is made pursuant to section 133-36 of the town code, which authorizes the town board to issue special permits for ferry and ferry company.
And it's an important part of our mitigation plan, the town's mitigation plan, because both ferry companies that's a key element, in getting people safely during.
Yeah, we were out of service 3 weeks ago for half an hour, and the Mizuno truck had to wait 4 hours.
Right, yeah.
Nice change.
Yes, yeah. I know school buses and ambulances and all those things are key because of their positioning to the ground and be an ambulance.
All right, so we will close that hearing. And we will reconvene the hearing on the community housing plan. And we have Catherine Eisman and Taylor Garner here on Zoom. And you're on mute. Okay, good.
Okay, here we go. And Taylor as well. She's going to share a PowerPoint we put together. Good evening, everyone.
Good
It's been
evening.
a little while. We haven't seen you since October 18th officially as at the public hearing. Except for, I guess we had some other, there was some work sessions. But today we are just going to go through a summary of the revisions to the community housing plan. Just to give kind of an overview, there were a number of additions in graphics and a few kind of trying to think of the word, sorry. Pathways forward, I guess, graphics to go with that. But so this is the summary. The first slide shows the components of the original housing plan draft from September of 2022. And I just wanted to have for comparison, the next slide showing what's different. We have added a section at the beginning, which, and if you click again, Taylor, it will show it'll have these things come in. This is a new section, the community housing plan highlights for the first 5 years, because we wanted to just, draw attention to where we're going with the implementation in the first 5 years. And then one section was actually removed, which was section 6, next steps, because basically that's where we are now. Those steps were basically how do we get to the point where a plan gets adopted. So next slide. So that new section of the community housing plan that highlights the first 5 years, they're really the items that had been identified, but we wanted to call attention to the fact that under Suffolk County Sanitary Code, the maximum number of units that could be located on the 2 town properties, the rental units that are proposed or that are envisioned at 69 North Ferry Road and 12 Ferry Road would be a maximum of 10 properties, and that 10 units. And that the design process is not started, that there would be an open and transparent community input process during the development of the plans and RFPs and so forth. And the housing plan as a proposed process for consideration that kind of a public.
Kathy, I'm sorry, if I could just a quick question for clarification. The number of units remain the same between the previous version and this version, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so it remained at 10. There was no change from the prior plan, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Good point.
We wanted to identify that a management entity separate from the town would be identified for management, the lottery and administration, and that would have to be determined prior to construction of the projects and occupancy. And then the other big item on implementation is to increase year-round accessory dwelling units throughout the town where they are possible under the code. And in order to do that, look at grants and low interest loans for the creation of new ADUs. And those, would be specifically for community housing units, to provide funding to offset the cost for installation of innovative and alternative on-site wastewater treatment systems, IA systems, that would be required to handle the additional load. And to develop that homeowner's guide to developing an accessory apartment, and as well as to identify locations in the town code that need to be updated to be consistent with the goals of the housing plan. So the other item that we did is we expanded on a number of things just to add clarity to the plan. But, stating that the focus was to be on rental units, and that Suffolk County Sanitary Code is the biggest limiting factor for development, particularly because there's very limited public water on the island, and so you have to have wastewater treatment in order to be able to increase density on individual properties. So that's a big limiting factor. So we wanted to make sure that was clear. We also added how are we going to increase year-round ADUs, and making grants and low interest loans possible, available through the funds was added to this. And then continuing, identifying the 10 units on the 2 town-owned properties as being the goal. We added a new narrative regarding the housing authorities of East Hampton and Southampton and possible partnerships. And we were more specific about the outreach for an updated community housing plan. It has to be updated every 5 years, but we want to start the process earlier on, for maybe in the 4th year or even earlier, with updated questionnaire and getting input from the public and holding open house sessions during that time. Next slide. And in the midterm, this is the 5 to 10 year period. We wanted to highlight that the town would continue to provide grants and low interest loans for increased ADUs and funds for IA systems, as well as to continue to support conversion of current seasonal rental units to year-round ADUs, and that's through code amendments and enforcement. And we added that under the consideration for addition of for sale units later on, that might include working with the community land trust to manage for sale units. Finally, we added that the Community Housing Advisory Board would evaluate progress made in the initial years of implementation to update the community housing plan. And it can be a living document.
I'm sorry, on that one, it's going to be the CHB. The CHAB was expanded, so we just got to fix that.
Yeah, I had it as CHFOB, and yeah, okay, so it's not Community Housing Advisory Board, it's Community Housing Board. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
okay.
No problem. That's minor.
Yeah.
That's a little scrivener.
Yeah, okay. Okay, next slide. So, I mean, what hadn't been included in the past version was the specific recommendation to provide funding to support accessory dwelling units. It just had not been, fully worked out yet. But the idea is that we could bring a new ADUs to the market and by bringing existing units up to code, and that's very cost prohibitive, especially to comply with Suffolk County Health Department standards. So even just the installation of an IA system can be very expensive. So the idea was to make that an option to be able to provide low interest loans or grants for the purpose of that, to expand ADUs, private property. And one of the things that is important is that restrictions would need to be established to ensure that those funds are utilized for the purpose of providing community housing, and that those units remain affordable for year-round occupancy. So the only thing that changed related to the priority fund uses, besides the adding town code amendments and the option for low interest loans and grants. Everything else was the same. And just other revisions and clarifications. So we went through and did a comparison of the two documents to make sure that we identified all the, we did a track changes version. So throughout the document, you'll see that we clarified that the focus of the housing plan is on year-round housing. So that was clarified. We added maps, we added charts and graphics, and included a review process that's like it's a flow chart. We also added a summary as far as the public outreach of the town hall meeting that was held after the public hearing in October. And we added in some photos and the description of an existing manor house development in the town of Southampton called Sandy Hollow. Good example. We modified the introduction of the needs assessment in section 4 just to clearly identify what the purpose of the needs assessment is. We clarified language about existing zoning requirements for ADUs or accessory apartments. And we have updated the language to reflect that the community housing referendum was passed in November of 2022. And finally, this is something that we updated today. There are a couple of minor revisions to reflect input that was received by the town this week. One has to do with the development of a housing lottery system. And that's clearly, just to be clear, that would be if it's permitted under federal law, that the lottery system should be implemented to provide a local preference for residents, former residents, year-round workers, teachers, essential workers, and police and volunteers to provide preference for those individuals. And that would only be if permitted under federal law. And then finally, on chapter 51, there was there was a recommendation for a requirement to have a broader composition of membership of and it's CHB, sorry about that. But instead to make it that it's available to encourage representation by the individuals in various fields and stakeholders rather than require them, just because it's sometimes hard to fill all those required places, but we wanted to make sure that there is the opportunity to have a broader composition of membership. And then the last slide is just in closing. This plan is requirement of the Peconic Bay Region Community Housing Fund Act. It has to be adopted before any expenditures can be made through the real estate transfer fees. And that the funds need to be consistent with the plan, and that there will be some other steps that have to occur. There has to be a review process developed for the fund expenditures, and include review by the Community Housing Board and a public hearing. And that's all we have.
Great. Can I make a couple of comments?
Yeah.
Kat, or I just want to kind of point out that the vote that we had in November, the referendum, again, to remind everybody, it wasn't about the plan. It was to approve the transfer tax of, in accordance with the CPF, the funding method. So just to sort of take that conversation down a little notch that's been happening on Facebook, that's what you voted on.
Yeah.
And these suggestions, and I would call them tweaks, clarifications, fleshing out of details. These things that have been done now from between the two drafts were done because we had a wonderful public meeting, I thought, in the auditorium, because we continue to get input from people, about what wasn't clear, what, could be tightened up a little.
including Suffolk County Planning.
Yeah, Suffolk County Planning had said, how about a few more charts? How about a few more graphs? So I just want us to remind everybody, we didn't call the other one a final. It was a draft, and this is the final that we're going to have the public hearing on in February.
Excellent clarification.
And just for the public's edification, the tax becomes effective April 1st. So that's when coffers will start getting filled.
Right.
And it's for agreements that are entered into after April 1st.
Correct.
So they won't start closing.
Get your transactions in now.
Yeah, so they won't start closing until end of April, May, June. So that's when we will start to see funds, is probably second half of the year.
And I want to thank Kathy and Taylor, just very much,
Amen.
hanging in there with us
Yes, thank you.
and holding our hands.
Welcome. Taylor's video is not on because she wasn't able to put it on, so she's here.
Yes, I am here. Thank you for that. Now I'm really here.
Yeah, you are.
Mhm.
Is there anyone from the public who'd like to speak on this?
Guest architect?
Minute. There being no public comment, we
Motion to close?
will close this public hearing.
What, motion? Someone second?
Yes, I make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
All right, so we'll reconvene the meeting and open the meeting to the public. Any additional comments? All right, so, we can then, should have done the resolutions first, next, but we have two resolutions on the applications that we just heard. So let me. And so I'll continue on. Whereas Shorewood Farms, Inc., Siegel Road, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to maintenance dredge approximately 1,000 yards from the basin entrance to a depth of 6 feet below mean water. Whereas a public hearing was held on the 31st day of January 2023 for all persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to. Whereas Waterways Committee of the Town Board has inspected and approved of said repairs now, therefore be it resolved that to issue a permit for dredging work. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Whereas North Ferry, 12 Summerfield Place, petitioned the town of Shelter Island for a special permit to replace and elevate East Shore side ramp support structure and repave approaching area. And whereas a public hearing was held on the 31st day of January 2023 for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or opposition, now therefore be it resolved that a special permit for the above described work to be conducted out in the premises is hereby granted, and copies of this approval shall be filed with the building inspector. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I didn't see any hands up in the intervening resolutions being read, so if there's no one out there, I'll have a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.